For the past 10 years or so, remasters have become much more common, with some of them being pretty good, while others not really do much regarding the overall quality. The biggest reason for games getting remasters is definitely the compatibility aspect for console games. Nowadays it's not as big of a deal anymore, as we can just resolve a lot of problems with patches when games get compatibility updates from the last generation, like the PS4 and Xbox One to the current one. But the 360 and PS3 era were much different, since they were built on different archetypes that make this whole situation very problematic. And obviously all the console generations prior to it were in the same boat. So a lot of remasters made sense to keep them alive and playable for future generations. Overall, I'm not a hater of remasters at all. Whenever it makes sense to bring games on a newer generation, I'm all up for it, since we shouldn't forget that old consoles will die out and suffer from poor performance and low resolution. But even with all these remasters releasing, it's still not enough to preserve the gaming zeitgeist. I'm mainly a PC player, so I don't have to deal with a lot of these problems, since every game that released on Windows will always be available to me. Even if the controls might be rough or settings unavailable, it's still there waiting for me to play it. And if it has glaring issues, then you can count on the modding community to fix it for you. There are no unplayable games on PC, except for the really old ones, and even those have fixes so that you can play them again. But there's only one problem: not every game releases on PC. Games like Metal Gear Solid 4 or the first Red Dead Redemption never released on PC, and probably never will, since Kojima doesn't work for Konami anymore, and the source code for Red Dead being an absolute mess as far as we know. And for the same reasons, we will also probably never see a remaster of these games. So what do? Their console generation is getting older by the day, with them eventually becoming unavailable, and the physical copies of these games getting scratched and dying out or becoming overpriced. Emulation has been a part of gaming for many years at this point, and we can be so glad that all of these developers take the time out of their days to preserve gaming's history. Most of us could never play Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64, or the old Metal Gear Solid games in their original form. Even with Nintendo trying to emulate their games on the Switch, their library still isn't complete, and even makes certain game bundles time exclusives? To my knowledge, you cannot get Super Mario Galaxy or Sunshine on the Switch unless you bought the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which was a timed exclusive. So if you didn't buy it on release or have the original sitting around, then you can't play it, except with emulation. With emulation itself being absolutely legal, there's really only one hurdle that we still don't have a clear and easy solution for: getting digital copies of all these games. At the top of my head, I can only think of Sega, that's selling a part of their Mega Drive collection straight through Steam. And the best part is that you actually get the ROM, so you can also just load it into an emulator of your choice or play it on a different platform like a portable emulator or your phone. I know that Capcom is also selling some of their classics, but I'm not sure on how they handle it. The problem is honestly that even when something like the Sega Mega Drive collection exists, it's only a very small portion of games. If there was a library for these games where you could get their digital copy for a small price, I would buy them 100%. And I bet many people feel the same way. Sadly, it seems like we won't be heading in that direction anytime soon, which leaves emulation with a lot of misconception within the community and making it hard for people to acquire legitimate copies of their games in a digital form. In my last video about Metal Gear Solid, I talked about the fact that Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and 4 simply aren't available on PC. Although the second game in the series still has a PC port, as far as I know it's not being sold right now, since GOG had to take it down from their store. Even without that issue, Snake Eater and Guns of the Patriots would not have a PC version, nor will they get a remaster from the looks of it. So without emulation, these games would eventually die out. Not only that, but with proper emulation and a good system, you will be able to play these games at a much higher resolution while still achieving a better frame rate. A lot of these games are locked at 30 FPS with an internal resolution of 720p or lower, but emulation cranks it up to a smooth 60 FPS at 4K, something that not even remasters target most of the time. And if you decide that you want to play it as close to the original as possible, then you can keep all the settings and even apply some filters to simulate to some of the older hardware. That whole topic goes much deeper, but that's more for hardcore enthusiasts. At the end of the day, this is the only way that old retro games will truly be preserved for generations to come. The developers of these emulators truly do an incredible job and constantly keep improving the performance, especially looking at how far RPCS3, the emulator for the PlayStation 3, has come. I remember a time where PS3 emulation seemed impossible, especially considering how unique of a system it was. But now it's a reality, with it being in a playable state. It's not as flawless as for the other systems, but it works. I'm a huge fan of emulation and always will be. It's sad how many hurdles or hoops you sometimes have to jump through in order to play some old classics, but emulation makes it not only easy, but also preserves the original, not a remaster with weird changes or awful frame rates. And whenever I might have kids in the future, I would like to show them the good old Pokemon games, so that they might enjoy them as much as I did as a child. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Consider joining my Discord, link is in the description. I hope to see you next time and wish you a great rest of your day. Take care.